Scotland's First Minister Humza Yousaf is considering stepping down, and according to the Sunday Times, he's already decided that he won't survive another confidence vote, and members of the National Party were being informed of that decision over the weekend. Humza Yousaf's position has become increasingly vulnerable after he abruptly decided to end his party's power-sharing deal with the Greens, claiming that the agreement had served its purpose. Now his battle for political survival comes after making headlines around the world for all the wrong reasons. Humza Yousaf has faced fierce backlash over Scotland's new hate crime law, which fails to protect women. One woman who hasn't been afraid to challenge the First Minister over the new law is best-selling author J.K. Rowling, who's publicly been calling out the hypocrisy around this law, as well as pointing out her concerns over what they mean for free speech and who they really protect. Just a few days ago, the Harry Potter author posted on X the idea that Humza Yousaf's political fate may now lie in the hands of Ash Regan, the woman who left the SNP in disgust at its plan for gender self-ID. Reminds me, they say Karma's a bee, but I hear she's a TERF. Now, Ash Regan resigned from her position as Minister for Community Safety in 2022 and joined the Alba Party. Our party leader, Alex Salmond, is calling on the SNP to refocus on independence rather than, quote, divisive culture and identity politics. But the list goes on when it comes to those who argue that Humza Yousaf's obsession with being woke has gone too far. Columnist Susan Daggerty wrote in The Scotsman, Humza Yousaf's current predicament comes down to one thing: his refusal to listen to women. Commentator Darren Grimes has told Sky News Australia that Scotland's new hate crime law is useless, but it's designed to protect men.
I mean, I already have deep reservations about the whole panoply of hate crime legislation. I think it's a way of making vexatious complaints about those that you disagree with politically. A good example would be in my part of the world, where we refer to people as pet. Now, I've been told that to refer to a woman as pet is misogynistic. I mean, I'm wondering, will I fall foul of Humza Yousaf's new hate crime if I walk north of the border? The bizarre thing as well is that it actually protects men dressed as women who make threats to actual biological women, right? You couldn't make that up. It is protecting violent men who are making threats to women who want to protect their own spaces and argue in all of those areas. We really are in clown territory, and Scotland is very much leading the charge. Honestly, viewers would be mistaken for thinking that Scotland had no issues to be getting on with, that it must be this Valhalla. But actually, it has significant drug issues, it has healthcare issues, education issues. The list goes on and on. But it's easier for someone like Humza Yousaf to paint himself as the guardian of whackery and wokery than it actually is of political delivery and of political service. And I dread to think actually what the actual sum is that's been extracted from the public purse in pursuit of all of this, because let's not forget, it's not just advertising campaigns, it's the volume, as you rightly said, of vexatious reporting that needs to be investigated by the police. And we record in this country the Orwellian non-crime hate incident. Now, I doubt I'm alone in believing that actually it's a damn disgrace that the police are involving themselves in anything that isn't an actual crime. This is criminalizing speech that isn't inciting violence, that isn't any form of terrorist activity or whatever else. We're really entering into dark territory throughout Europe. And unless we pull back soon, I fear that there's going to be a lot of people, innocent people, dragged into this. J.K. Rowling is rich enough and big enough to defend herself. It's going to be the average Joe and Josephine that gets dragged in to this quagmire of ridiculous censoriousness.
Well, J.K. Rowling's not backing down of her criticism of Scotland's First Minister. He's revealed that transgender women will be protected under the new misogyny laws. Now, the Harry Potter author has called him out. She said, once again, Humza Yousaf makes his absolute contempt for women and their rights clear. Women were excluded from his nonsensical hate crime law. Now he introduces a misogyny law designed to also protect men. Darren, she hits the nail on the head again, doesn't she?
Yeah, she absolutely does. Yeah, it is perverse, frankly, that actually we should be prioritizing police resources on defending the rights of those who, and I'm sure actually you've witnessed it yourself on social media. It doesn't take much trawling through to see actually the most awful, vile abuse from people who, there are political candidates in Scotland that have been stood down from political parties, trans people that is, who have said the most horrible things online about J.K. Rowling and others and been suspended for it. I worry that the culture that's been perpetuated here is one that says that actually women's rights come second now, that actually the pursuit of so-called equality is leading to a hierarchy of victimhood in which trans is the new creme de la creme, the pièce de résistance that we all have to actually watch out for. When actually, I put it to you that when we have the likes of when the self-identification laws went through in Scotland originally, we had a man called Adam Graham, who went by the name of Isla Bryson, who was in prison. Now, he went into a female prison, saying that his name was now Isla. He was a double rapist, Gabriella. This is the perverse incentive. We are enabling some of society's most awful people through this legislation in the name of so-called progress and so-called kindness. I don't think there's anything kind about rolling back women's rights and protections.
Look, finally, before I let you go, Darren, we just have to say what is going on with Scotland, because after the government introduced the new controversial hate crime laws, it's now been revealed that Scottish primary schools are appointing children as LGBT champions and are encouraging discussions with students as young as 4 about their sexual orientation or gender identity, and that's according to documents obtained by The Telegraph. Schools are establishing LGBT clubs and gender and sexual orientation alliance groups as part of their participation in a program administered by the charity LGBT Youth Scotland. Darren, as I said earlier, I'm all for inclusivity. I want the best education, the best equal rights for everyone on this planet. But is it really appropriate for children to be LGBT champions?
Absolutely not. No, it's not appropriate to even be discussing themes of sex and sexuality to children of that age, right? I mean, is it not enough to let kids actually learn the alphabet before you actually expose them to the LGBT alphabet soup, whatever it is now? You know, I go back to that fundamental point that the UK, the CAS review actually found that there are serious safeguarding failures presented within children in the United Kingdom. And it's not just in the United Kingdom. We've already highlighted that it's happening elsewhere throughout Europe too. This is being pushed by charities receiving really large sums of taxpayer cash. 1 million quid went to that LGBT Youth Scotland that you mentioned. And they're urging children to be forced into gender neutral bathrooms. And now schools are being urged to ask kids as young as 4 if they're gay, lesbian or trans. I mean, I want kids to be able to learn maths, English and science. Never mind this alphabet soup nonsense. It's Scotland that has examples of children being punished for stating biological truth and fact and abused by teachers for failing to actually accept the gender cult. I just think we've got to make no mistake about this. This is indoctrinating small children with sexualized ideologies. It's deeply unethical. And actually, I go back to that point, keep saying it, but it's so important. Safeguarding principles have to be sacrosanct. Primary school children must be allowed to actually live in the innocence of childhood. The CAS review, independent in nature, was all too clear about the damaging long-term impact that it can have for children and their long-term development. That's some of society's most vulnerable children, to actually get them down these pathways. Just let children be children, for the love of God, Gabriella.
Yeah, you'd think it would be quite simple, but apparently not. Darren Grimes, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. It's been brilliant to have you on Power Hour. I'll speak to you soon.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you.